She hadn't sung in 3 years. Not a single note. Not even in the shower. Not even when her brother begged her to. When the silence in their apartment felt like suffocation. When the weight of everything she'd lost pressed against her chest until she couldn't breathe. Elena Vance had buried her voice the same night her life ended. And she swore she would never let anyone hear it again. But then a billionaire asked her a question, and everything she'd built to survive shattered. The wine spreads across white silk like blood in water. Elena watches it happen in slow motion. The $12,000 dress ruined, the collective gasp of the dining room, the way Isabella Thorne's face contorts from shock into something far more dangerous. Rage. The kind that's been waiting for an excuse. "You clumsy bitch." The room goes silent. Every eye in the obsidian room turns toward the commotion, toward Elena standing there with an empty tray and trembling hands, toward the woman whose dress now carries the stain of Chateau Margaux like a war wound. Elena doesn't apologize. Not yet, because she knows that Tom bumped her, that his elbow caught her ribs just as she passed, that this wasn't her fault. But fault doesn't matter here. Not in this room. Not when you're the help and the woman glaring at you is engaged to Julian Blackwood, the man who could buy this entire building with the contents of his wallet. "I want her fired," Isabella says. Her voice cuts through the silence like glass. Immediately. But here's what no one in that room knows. 3 years ago, Elena Vance wasn't Elena Vance at all. She was Elena Vankova. And she didn't serve food to the powerful. She was powerful. Juilliard's rising star. The soprano critics called once in a generation. The girl who could make angels weep. Until she couldn't. Until one night, one scandal, one very public collapse destroyed everything. Now she's nobody. A ghost wearing an apron. A voice locked in a cage of survival and shame. And as Isabella Thorne demands her humiliation, Elena makes a choice she'll never be able to take back. She lifts her chin, meets Isabella's eyes, and says nothing, because sometimes silence is the loudest sound in the room. "Did you hear me?" Isabella's voice rises. "I said I want her." "I heard you." The voice comes from the man sitting across from Isabella. Julian Blackwood doesn't look up from his wine glass. He swirls it once, twice, examining the contents like they're infinitely more interesting than the scene unfolding before him. "Julian, she destroyed my dress. This is Valentino Couture." "It's wine, Isabella, not battery acid." Something shifts in his tone. Something cold. Elena recognizes it immediately. The sound of someone who's grown bored with their own life, who's looking for entertainment in the wreckage of others. He finally looks up, first at Isabella, then at Elena. And when his eyes land on her, Elena feels it. The assessment. The calculation. The way predators size up prey. "Tell me," Julian says, his gaze locked on Elena. "Can you sing?" The question lands like a punch. 6 hours earlier, before the wine, before the question that shouldn't exist, Elena had been someone else entirely. She'd been a sister. "The appointment's at 9, Leo said from the couch, his voice thin with exhaustion. At 17, he should have been worried about college applications and first dates. Instead, he was counting down the days until his kidneys failed completely. Elena tucked the blanket tighter around his legs. "I'll be there. My shift ends at 8. "Elena." He caught her wrist. "You don't have to." "Yes," she said. "I do." Because what else was there? Their parents were gone. A car accident 2 years before Leo's diagnosis, leaving nothing but debt and medical bills that multiplied like cancer cells. Elena had dropped out of Juilliard in her final year, walked away from a full scholarship and a future that glittered like stage lights, all because Leo needed her. And she would do it again. Every time. But the cost. Deep breath. The cost was a voice she no longer used, technique that atrophied in silence, a name, Elena Vankova, that had been dragged through tabloids and gossip sites until it meant nothing but scandal. Promising soprano collapses on stage, drug use suspected, scholarship revoked, career over before it began. None of it true, all of it permanent. The Obsidian Room paid $32 an hour plus tips. It was enough to keep their studio apartment, enough to cover Leo's medications, at least until his condition worsened. Which it would. The doctors had been clear about that. "You're humming," Leo said. Elena stopped. She hadn't realized. An old habit from before, muscle memory from a life that no longer existed. "Sorry." "Don't be sorry." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I miss hearing you sing. I don't sing anymore." "I know." He squeezed her wrist once before letting go. "I just wish you could." So did she. God, so did she. But wishing didn't pay for dialysis. Wishing didn't keep her brother alive. So Elena went to work. "Can you sing?" The question hangs in the air like smoke. Elena's mouth goes dry. Around them, the Obsidian Room holds its collective breath. The chef has stopped yelling in the kitchen. The other servers have frozen mid-step. Even Isabella has gone quiet, confusion replacing rage on her beautiful, cruel face. "Julian, what are you—" "Quiet." He doesn't look at his fiancée. His entire attention is fixed on Elena, and there's something in his expression she can't read. Amusement? Curiosity? Contempt? All three, probably. "Well?" he prompts. It's a simple question. Nothing about this is simple. Elena's hands are still shaking. Wine drips from the tray onto the marble floor. Drip, 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 counting out seconds she doesn't have. She should say no. Should apologize, accept her firing, and disappear into the kitchen before this gets worse. But Julian Blackwood is watching her like a puzzle he wants to solve, and Elena recognizes that look. She's seen it before. On maestros who tested their students, on directors who auditioned hundreds for a single role. It's the look of someone who knows exactly what they're doing. "I can sing," she says quietly. Isabella laughs. The sound is sharp and vindictive. "Oh, this is rich. Jules, you can't be serious." "I'm always serious, darling." The endearment sounds like an insult. "Here's what we're going to do. You," he points at Elena, "are going to sing for us, right now. And if you're good, if you can actually perform—" He pauses, drinks his wine, sets down the glass with deliberate precision. "I'll marry you instead of her." The room erupts. Isabella lunges to her feet, her chair clattering backward. "You son of a bitch! Sit down, Isabella." Julian's voice doesn't rise, but it cuts through the chaos like a blade. "Or leave. I don't particularly care which." "This is insane. You can't just—" "I can do whatever I want. That's what unlimited wealth means." He turns back to Elena, and something flickers in his eyes, something dark and amused and almost sad. "And I'm tired. Tired of this dinner. Tired of this engagement. Tired of pretending any of this means something." He's testing her. Elena understands that now. This isn't about the wine or the dress or even Isabella's humiliation. This is a billionaire playing games with people's lives because he's bored. She should walk away. Should tell him exactly where he can shove his challenge. But then she thinks of Leo, of the medical bills stacked on their kitchen counter, of the sound her brother makes when he's trying not to cry from pain. "What do you want me to sing?" Elena asks. Julian smiles. It's not a kind smile. "Der Hölle Rache," he says. "The Queen of the Night aria from the Magic Flute. You know it?" Every opera singer knows it. It's one of the most technically demanding pieces in the repertoire. Impossible high notes, rapid coloratura. A test of perfect control and devastating power. Mozart designed it to be almost impossible to sing well. I know it, Elena says. Then sing. She shouldn't do this. Every rational part of Elena's brain is screaming at her to refuse, to walk out, to preserve the careful anonymity she's built over 3 years of hiding. If she sings, if she reveals what she can do, everything unravels. But Isabella is smirking. Julian is waiting. And somewhere across the city, Leo is lying on a couch, counting down to kidney failure. Elena sets down the tray. The obsidian room has a small stage in the corner. Usually it hosts a pianist during dinner service, soft jazz, forgettable background music. The piano sits silent now, black and gleaming under low light. Elena's server shoes click against marble as she walks. Each step feels like moving through water. The room parts for her. Curious faces, judgmental faces, Isabella's face twisted with contempt. She reaches the stage, steps up. Deep breath. 3 years since she's sung publicly. 3 years since the night her world ended, the Juilliard showcase, the moment she walked on stage and froze, the whispers that followed her everywhere after. Drugs, mental breakdown, unstable, all lies, all designed to destroy her. But they worked. Elena closes her eyes, finds her center, and begins. Der Hölle Rache. The first note is a gunshot, pure, precise, and powerful enough to silence every whisper in the room. Elena's voice rises through the aria like fire climbing walls, hitting each impossible interval with surgical precision. She's not singing to entertain, she's singing to survive. The Queen of the Night aria is fury personified, vengeance set to music. Elena pours 3 years of rage into it, rage at the scandal, rage at the injustice. Rage at every condescending customer and every bill she couldn't pay, and every night she lay awake wondering if Leo would make it to morning. The high F rings out like crystal shattering. The room holds its breath. And then, silence. Perfect, stunned silence. Elena opens her eyes. Julian Blackwood is staring at her like he's seeing a ghost. His wine glass dangles forgotten in his hand. Beside him, Isabella's face has gone pale, her mouth open in shock. Because everyone in this room recognizes what they just heard. That wasn't a waitress who dabbled in singing. That was a virtuoso. The applause starts slowly, then builds, then crashes over the room like a wave, people rising to their feet, shouting bravos and encores and who is she, and my God, did you hear? Elena doesn't hear it. She's already running. Julian finds her 3 days later. Elena is in the hospital cafeteria drinking coffee that tastes like regret when Arthur, Julian Blackwood's head of security, sits down across from her. Ms. Vance, he says, Mr. Blackwood would like to speak with you. Tell Mr. Blackwood I'm not interested. He was quite insistent. Elena looks up. Arthur is built like a wall and has eyes that miss nothing. She recognizes the type. Former military, probably special forces, now paid handsomely to make problems disappear. I don't care, she says. I'm busy. Your brother is in dialysis. 3rd floor, room 314. He has 17 minutes left on his session. Arthur's voice is neutral, professional. You have time. The casual knowledge of Leo's location sends ice down Elena's spine. Are you threatening me? I'm informing you. There's a difference. He stands. Mr. Blackwood is waiting in the parking garage. Level B. Black Tesla. He leaves. Elena sits there, coffee growing cold in her hands, weighing her options. She could ignore this. Could pretend Julian Blackwood doesn't exist, that the other night never happened, that her performance didn't just destroy 3 years of carefully maintained invisibility. But men like Julian don't take no for an answer. And maybe that's not entirely bad. Pause. She finds him exactly where Arthur said. The Tesla is sleek and absurdly expensive, and Julian is leaning against it, scrolling through his phone like he's waiting for a coffee order instead of ambushing someone in a hospital parking garage. Elena Vankova, he says without looking up. Not Vance, Vankova, Juilliard, class of 2022, full scholarship. Projected to be one of the greatest sopranos of your generation. Elena's blood runs cold. That's not, then something happened. He finally looks at her. You collapsed during the spring showcase. Scholarship revoked. Career destroyed. The tabloids had a field day. Drug use. Mental instability. Promising talent wastes opportunity. He tilts his head. Except none of it was true, was it? How did you... I'm a billionaire, Elena. I have resources. He pockets his phone. It took Arthur 48 hours to piece together the real story. You want to know what he found? She doesn't answer. Isabella Thorne, my delightful fiancée. The word drips with venom. She was at Juilliard the same year. Different department, performance arts, not voice. But she watched you, envied you. And when you auditioned for the Metropolitan Opera's Young Artist program, the program Isabella wanted desperately, and you got the spot instead. Julian smiles. It's the coldest smile Elena has ever seen. She destroyed you, slipped something into your water bottle before the showcase, mild sedative just enough to make you disoriented, then spread the rumors, made sure everyone saw you stumble, made sure the scandal stuck. The parking garage tilts. Elena grabs the car for support. You're lying. I have proof. Arthur pulled security footage, financial records, testimony from a student she paid off. It's all there. He pauses. Isabella Thorne has spent 3 years believing she got away with ruining your life. Why are you telling me this? Because I want to ruin hers. The offer comes 2 hours later, in a conference room overlooking Manhattan. Julian sits across from Elena, Arthur standing sentinel by the door. Between them, a contract. 47 pages. Legal language that might as well be hieroglyphics. 1 year, Julian says. You marry me. Play the role of my wife. Attend events, handle social obligations, convince my family and the board that this is real. And in exchange? Full medical care for your brother, experimental treatments, transplant priority list, whatever he needs, plus a stipend of $50,000 monthly for living expenses. The number is obscene. Elena's hands shake as she picks up the contract. Why? She asks. You could marry anyone. Why me? Julian leans back in his chair. My grandfather's trust. I inherit controlling shares of Blackwood Dynamics when I turn 35, which is in 6 months, but only if I'm married. It's an archaic clause, but it's ironclad. I need a wife. He pauses. And after your performance the other night, I need one who won't bore me to tears. This is insane. This is business. Elena reads the contract. The terms are clear. No physical intimacy unless mutually agreed upon. Separate bedrooms. Complete confidentiality. At the end of 1 year, a no-fault divorce with a severance payment of $500,000. It's everything she needs. It's selling herself in the most sophisticated way possible. I want to add a clause, she says. Julian raises an eyebrow. You're negotiating? Leo's medical care continues for 5 years after the divorce. Not just the transplant, all follow-up care, medications, but everything. Done. And I want it in writing that if this contract is ever made public, the medical care continues regardless. Something flickers in Julian's expression. Respect, maybe, or calculation. Smart, he says. Arthur, add the amendments. Arthur produces a pen. Elena signs. Genevieve Blackwood is 83 years old and terrifying. She sits in the library of the Blackwood estate like a queen holding court, her spine straight, her eyes sharp enough to cut diamond. Elena stands before her, wearing a dress Julian's stylist selected. Chanel probably costs more than Elena made in a year at the Obsidian Room, and tries not to fidget. "So," Genevieve says, "you're the waitress." "Yes, ma'am." "My grandson says you're also an opera singer." "Was. I don't perform anymore." "Pity." Genevieve's gaze is piercing. "I saw Renee Fleming perform at the Met in 1998. It was transcendent. You know the performance?" "Rosenkavalier. She was 29. Elena meets the older woman's eyes. "Critics said it was the definitive interpretation of the Marschallin for a generation." A ghost of a smile touches Genevieve's lips. "You know your history." "I know my craft." "Past tense?" Elena doesn't answer. Genevieve sets down her teacup. "I don't care that you were a waitress, girl. I care whether you're intelligent, whether you're resilient, whether you'll embarrass this family." She leans forward. "Julian's parents were fools, weak, entitled, more concerned with appearances than substance. They're dead now, thankfully, but their damage lingers." The bluntness is startling. "I loved my grandson once," Genevieve continues, "before he became this, cold, calculating, a businessman who forgot how to be human." She studies Elena. "You intrigue me. You have something he needs." "What's that?" "Fire." Genevieve stands. "Don't let him extinguish it. And don't let this family turn you into something you're not." It's not permission, exactly, but it's not rejection either. Later, as Elena leaves the library, she hears Genevieve call out, "And Ms. Vance? I expect you to sing at the wedding. No granddaughter-in-law of mine will be silent." The kiss happens 6 weeks into the marriage. They're at a charity gala, one of dozens Elena has attended, playing the role of Billionaire's wife with learned precision. She knows how to smile now, how to deflect invasive questions, how to make small talk with people who view her as either trophy or threat. She's good at it, better than she expected. "You're enjoying this," Julian murmurs as they dance. "I'm surviving it." "Liar." His hand tightens on her waist. "You just negotiated a $2 million donation from the Vandermeer Foundation using nothing but charm and strategic flattery. You're thriving." He's not wrong. Elena had forgotten what it felt like to use her mind, to engage with people on equal footing instead of serving them appetizers. The marriage might be fake, but the power it gives her is real. And Julian? Pause. Julian has changed too. He's less cold now, less performatively bored. Sometimes she catches him watching her with an expression she can't decode. Sometimes they talk past midnight in his study, real conversations about music and business and the pressure of living up to names they didn't choose. Sometimes Elena forgets this is an arrangement. "Come with me," Julian says suddenly. He leads her through the gala, past champagne and designer dresses, out onto a balcony overlooking the city. The night air is cool. Manhattan glitters below them, a million lights representing a million lives. "I ended my engagement with Isabella," Julian says. "Did I ever tell you why I proposed to her in the first place?" "No." "Because I didn't care. That was the whole point. A marriage that meant nothing, with someone who meant nothing, so I could maintain control of my company without sacrificing anything that mattered." He looks at her. "You were supposed to be the same thing." "I know. But you're not." The words hang between them. "Julian." He kisses her. It's soft at first, questioning. Then Elena's hands are in his hair and his arm is around her waist, and nothing about this is fake anymore. Nothing about this is part of the contract. When they break apart, both breathing hard, Julian rests his forehead against hers. "This wasn't supposed to happen," he says. "I know. We should go back to the gala." "We should." Neither of them moves. The wedding is a cathedral. Not the quiet courthouse ceremony they had 6 months ago, the one that made their arrangement legal, but a public spectacle. Genevieve insisted. "You're Blackwoods now. Act like it." So here they are, 200 guests, cathedral ceilings, enough flowers to bankrupt a florist, and a prenuptial contract that's supposed to be locked in Julian's personal safe. Supposed to be. Elena stands at the altar in a wedding dress that costs more than her childhood home, looking at Julian, feeling her heart beat against her ribs like a trapped bird. This is supposed to be for show, a performance. But when Julian looks at her, she sees the truth neither of them has said aloud. This isn't an arrangement anymore. "If anyone has reason why these two should not be wed," the priest intones, "speak now, or forever hold your peace." The cathedral doors slam open. Isabella Thorne walks down the aisle like an executioner. In her hand, papers, the contract, every clause, every term, every proof that this marriage began as a transaction. "I have reason," Isabella announces, her voice echoing off stone. "This entire wedding is a fraud." The crowd erupts, gasps, whispers, camera phones appearing like fireflies. Julian's jaw clenches. Arthur moves toward Isabella, but she's already at the altar, already holding up the contract for everyone to see. 1 year, Isabella reads. $50,000 monthly payments. Medical care for her brother in exchange for playing the billionaire's wife. She smiles. "You want to know why Julian Blackwood married this woman? Because she was for sale." The words hit like bullets. Elena feels every eye in the cathedral on her. Judging. Calculating. The press in the back row is already typing. By tonight, this will be everywhere. Billionaire's fake marriage. Waitress cons her way into wealth. The ultimate gold digger scheme. Julian steps forward, his face carved from ice. "Isabella, don't." Elena's voice cuts through the chaos. Everyone stops. Elena turns to face the crowd. Her hands are shaking, but her voice is steady. "It's true," she says. "All of it. I married Julian Blackwood for money, for medical care, for survival." She looks at Isabella. "You want to know why? Because 3 years ago you destroyed my career. You drugged me, spread lies, ruined my scholarship and my reputation because you couldn't stand that I was better than you." Isabella's face goes white. "And yes, I took Julian's offer, because my brother was dying and I had nothing left." Elena's voice rises. "I took his money. I played the role. I did exactly what the contract required." She turns to Julian, looks him in the eyes. "But somewhere between the contract and right now, something changed." Her voice cracks. "I fell in love with you." Silence. "So, here's what I'm going to do." Elena takes the contract from Isabella's hands. The pages feel like they weigh nothing, everything, and she tears it in half. The sound echoes through the cathedral. "No contract," Elena says. "No money, no conditions." She faces Julian. "Marry me because you want to, because this is real, or don't marry me at all." "But your brother," Julian starts. "I'll figure it out. I always have." She smiles through tears. "But I won't spend my life wondering if you would have chosen me without a legal obligation." The cathedral is silent. Julian stares at her, at the torn contract, at the wreckage of their carefully constructed lie. Then he laughs. It's a real laugh, not the cold, controlled sound he usually makes, a genuine, bewildered, holy shit kind of laugh. "You're insane," he says. "Probably. And I'm absolutely in love with you." He kisses her in front of 200 witnesses, contract in pieces at their feet, and this time everyone knows it's real. 6 months later, Carnegie Hall, the stage Elena never thought she'd see again. She stands in the wings, wearing a gown the color of midnight, listening to the murmur of the sold-out crowd. Somewhere in that audience is Leo, healthy now, recovering from a successful transplant, seated next to Julian and Genevieve Blackwood. 2 minutes, Ms. Blackwood, the stage manager says. Ms. Blackwood. Not Vance, not Vancouver, the name she chose, the life she reclaimed. After the wedding, Julian had Arthur leak the full story to the press. Isabella's sabotage, the proof, everything. Isabella faced consequences. Investigation, public disgrace, criminal charges for drugging Elena. The Thorne family's reputation crumbled. Elena didn't feel victorious, just tired. But she felt free. And when the Met offered her a contract, a real one, the young artist program she'd been denied 3 years ago, she cried in Julian's arms for an hour before saying yes. Tonight is her comeback performance. Puccini, Tosca. The aria Vici d'arte. I lived for art. Elena walks onto the stage. The lights are blinding. The crowd goes silent. She finds Julian in the third row, and he's looking at her the way he did that night in the cathedral, like she's the only real thing in his entire world. She opens her mouth and sings. The voice that she buried for 3 years rises like a phoenix. Every note is pain and triumph. Every phrase is a battle won. She's not singing for survival anymore. She's not singing to prove anything. She's singing because she can, because she's earned this, fought for this, refused to let cruelty and circumstance and fear silence her permanently. When the final note fades, the silence holds for one perfect crystalline moment. Then the audience rises as one. The applause is thunder. Roses hit the stage like rain. Elena takes her bow, finds Julian again in the crowd. He's standing, tears on his face, and he mouths 2 words. That's my wife. Later, in the dressing room, Elena stares at her reflection. The makeup, the gown, the woman who walked away from music and clawed her way back. Julian appears in the doorway. You were extraordinary, he says. I was terrified. I know. He crosses to her, takes her hands. But you did it anyway. Elena looks at their intertwined fingers, his wedding ring catching light next to hers. Thank you, she says, for all of it. The contract, the challenges, pushing me when I wanted to hide. Thank you for teaching me what it means to actually love someone. Julian kisses her forehead. Not a transaction, not a requirement, just choice. Choice. The word Elena fought for. The thing she reclaimed. In the mirror, her reflection smiles back. Not the waitress, not the scandal, not the contract wife. Just Elena. The soprano, the sister, the woman who refused to stay silent. And somewhere in the city, in a small studio apartment they've kept as a reminder, a framed contract sits in pieces on the shelf. Not a symbol of what she sold, but proof of what she wouldn't. Her voice, her truth, her choice. 3 years ago, Elena Vankova disappeared. Tonight, she came back. And this time no one could take it away.